In this program, we're going to learn how to use a list box and many of the methods that we can use with a list box. You see a lot of them here with all of these buttons. 8 of them, in fact, we're going to analyze. We can get a list box in the toolbox. There it is. We can make it as large as we want. We'll discover much later on that if we have more items in the list than there is room, that a scroll bar will show up. LST is the 3-letter prefix for a list box. We'll call this LST dessert because we're going to put some dessert items in here. If you want to change the fore color or background color in a list box, you can certainly do that. Items, that's a very important property, and we went to collection and clicked on the 3 dots, and inside the string collection editor we can type in the items we want to appear in the list box. Again, we got here by going to the items property and then clicked on the 3 dots that came up by collection. We're entering in several dessert items here, and then once we press OK, these items will appear in the list box. There they are. And when we run the program, there you see them inside the list box. We can click on them. Once the focus is in there, we can use the up and down arrows to select different items in the list box as well. The first method we're going to check out is how to count the number of items in the list box. We'll display it in a message box here, and the key is to use a method called count. We'll use the name of our list box, LST dessert, dot items, that's important, dot count. That will display, or that will return an integer of how many items are in the list box. And we have 7 in there, that's what we should see, and we do. Next, we'll learn how to check the selected index. That's a number indicating which item has been selected. The first item always has an index of 0, and the last one is always 1 less than the number of items in the list box. So we will display this using the dot selected index property. So the name of our list box is LST dessert. We have to use dot selected index, and that will return the index of what was selected. Unless nothing is selected, then it returns -1. Strawberry cheesecake has an index of 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Snickerdoodle is at the end, it has an index of 6, 1 less than the number of items we have. Chocolate chip cookie has an index of 0, it's the first item. Again, if nothing is selected, this will return -1. Now that may not be very handy for users to read because they wouldn't understand why a -1 appears. It would be easier for them to see some kind of a message explaining to them that there is now an item that has been selected. We can use an if to take care of that. We'll check to see if the selected index is not equal to -1. If it is, then we know that something has actually been selected in the list box. However, if the selected index is -1, then an item has not been selected because dot selected index returns -1 when nothing has been selected. And this will be probably more useful information for users of the program. So that was selected index. Another method is to find the selected item. This is handy when you want to find out what the actual string is that is in the list box. We'll use the dot selected item method. LST dessert, the name of our list box, dot selected item. We also have to say .toString. That selected item is actually an object that needs to be converted to a string if we're going to find out what it says. So we click on Jelly Donut, There it is, the string jelly donut. Click on snickerdoodle. There it is, the string snickerdoodle. Click on chocolate chip cookie. There it is. However, if we don't have anything selected, we've got big problems. The program crashes, a null reference exception. So we're going to need to make sure something has actually been selected. Well, we already know how to do that. We check to see if the selected index is not equal to -1. We'll use that same strategy up here. So if the selected index isn't -1, then we know we're safe to find the selected item. However, if the selected index is -1, then nothing has been selected. And we can give the users a message indicating that that is the issue. So that covers selected index and selected item. Next, let's see how we can add an item to the end of the list. Now, we only want to add an item to the end of the list if the text box is not empty. So we check to make sure that it isn't, and if it isn't empty, then it's okay to do lstdessert.items.add and then put inside the parentheses what we want to add. We want to add what has been typed in that text box. So it's txtitem.text. It's also going to be handy to clear out that text box so we're ready to add another dessert item. So we'll add the .clear method as well. Now, if that text box is empty, then there's really nothing to add to the list box, and we're going to give the users a message that indicates that there's nothing in the text box, and that's why we're not going to add anything to the list. We'll type in cupcake, add item to end. There it is, using the .add method. We'll type in popsicle, add it to the end. It looks like it would be handy to assign the focus to this text box every time we add an item to the end of the list. That way we don't have to continue to click into it to put more dessert items in the list. We did that with txtitem.focus. Much easier to keep adding items. And again, a message in case there was nothing in there. We'll come back to this method a little later to notice how we can get a scroll bar to automatically show up when our number of items exceeds the size that we have for the list box. Let's learn how to remove an item from the list box. We'll declare a string variable called strRemoveThis as string. Whatever the user types into the text box, we're going to remove it from the list if it appears in the list. If it doesn't appear in the list, nothing will happen. Well, once again, we want to make sure that they have actually typed something into that text box. So we're safe if it's not string.empty. Then we'll do strRemoveThis equals what is in the text property of the text box. Whatever they typed in, we'll stick it in this variable strRemoveThis. And then we'll remove it from the list. lstdessert.items.remove, and then in parentheses we put the object we want to remove, which in this case is the variable strRemoveThis. Again, it will be handy to clear out the text box once this is done, ready for a new item to be entered. If there's nothing in the text box, then we'll once again give the users a message that they have not typed anything in there and therefore nothing is going to be removed. Should have typed in there, please type in an item to remove. That's a mistake by me. I'm sorry about that. And we'll also put the focus in the text box, ready for the next item to be entered. Snickerdoodle is in the list, so we will try to remove it, and it's gone. Peanut butter cup is in the list, now it's gone. Shake is not in the list, so nothing happens. And again, I'm sorry about the wrong message there. It should have said, please type an item to remove. Ice cream was in the list, now it's gone. And that is how we can remove an item from the list. One of the easiest methods is to clear out the list, or wipe out the items that are in the list box. The name of our list box, lstdessert.items.clear. That will remove all the objects from the list box. Told you it was easy. If we want to get something back in there, we'll have to add it to the end.